Okay, we are back with episode 2 of season 5 of Riverdale.
The Preppy murders.
AKA episode 21 of season 4 of Riverdale.
Okay, chapter 78.
I don't know where to begin. I guess we'll start low.
Okay.
Did you like this?
I liked parts of it. Here's the thing is I feel again like this episode might have been too mushed together.
I don't think so. I think that this is something you've
No, not like, well, it just feels like there were too many things. Like they were trying to tie up all of it in a way that was like very unsatisfying.
Okay, well, we effectively have 4 plots.
Yeah,
so
that's too many.
No, there's always an A, B, C, and D story.
No, I know, but it was every single one of them was like finishing the story up, and that's like too much for one episode.
So we have, well, okay, so Veronica was in rare form this episode because
all the lodges.
The Lodge women.
The Lodge women. Yeah.
Well, and even Hiram was. That was me having a seizure in real time.
Out.
So it's the Lodge Tango. It's the we have everything that they have said in this episode, everything that they did, we have seen and heard before.
100%.
However, something about this time did feel like maybe it might stick.
Well, okay. Here's the reason why is because Hiram was the odd man out. Nobody was sticking with Hiram unless Hermione or Hermosa are double crossing.
So that struck me. Apparently, Hermosa is just on the show, and I was like, okay, fine,
sure.
And it does appear that her and Veronica are sort of properly in cahoots.
Yeah, they're cahooting.
Where I meant Veronica was in rare form. They all were. We already covered that. But it was in the beginning when they showed up for their
to pick up their
gown
gowns,
fittings. Yeah. She
fittings. You just have to pick up the right size. You don't get fit for your
she shows up or when they show up to pick up their gowns, Archie was sort of like she surprises Archie and is like,
what the fuck are you trying to do, man? I don't know what you're going for, or I would help you out.
When they show up to get their gowns, she's like a step ahead of Archie and she's pretending to be his girlfriend.
Right.
And she's like thought it through and she's very quick on her feet. And that feels like, episode 1 and 2 of season 1 Veronica.
Sure. Okay.
That's what I mean, where I was like, oh, who's this girl? I'm glad to have her back with some agency and in some form of control.
And similarly with Hermione, because she, at the end of it, basically is like, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, Hiram. I'm leaving to go be a housewife in New York.
Well, that was the single best part. Yeah. I'm sure everyone is with us on this. We are not an island alone in this.
We almost definitely are an island alone in this.
That Hermione is apparently going to be on the Real Housewives of somewhere.
New York.
Well, she said move back to New York, but so I'm so curious because we're not entirely sure what's going on. Marisol Nichols was leaving the show, but then last we heard she's staying.
Yeah, it was her and Skeet Ulrich were going to leave, and then the writers were like, well, we'll fix it, and she decided to stay, and I think Skeet is still leaving.
Well, and I just remembered there's also meant to be the time jump, so it's probably going to be after the fact, but I am here for reality star Hermione Lodge. Yeah. And I hope we get some glimpse at whatever this Real Housewives thing is.
I have a feeling we will. I feel
like... Are we going to see Real Housewives on this show?
That I'm not so sure about, but I do think we will have another Andy Cohen guest star spot.
Yeah, and it's going to be weirdly Andy Cohen and not Sandy Bowen. But...
Correct. Yeah, actual real life Andy Cohen.
And real life New York.
Yeah.
So... That's my takeaway from this episode. I mean, they told off Hiram, and I mean, I don't know. They kicked him out of his own
company. They got him to take a vacation to the Cayman Islands. Whatever. Here is my thing about Hiram. Okay, everybody knows my thing about Hiram. I think he sucks. But it is hilarious to me that he is insisting that he's got this debilitating illness and beating up other criminals is keeping him healthy.
Well, they've never said, but the implication for me was ALS.
I don't think it can be ALS. That's like extremely debilitating.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he just needs to use his muscles more. I don't know.
That's not how it works.
That's not how
any of this works.
That's what Veronica said, where she was like, "That's not how science works, Daddy."
Yeah.
And also him coming at Archie, it was so funny and so weird because Veronica's nonplussed. Like, she just doesn't.
So I can believe that Veronica is upset. You know, this is her high school boyfriend. They've been, but I think she's compartmentalizing it beautifully. And for all of a sudden, Hiram to like give two shits about his daughter's love life when in the past it has only been another pawn for him to operate through.
What he gives a shit about is a reason to cockfight with Archie.
You're right. I just like...
So he comes charging in, and then this Sheriff Keller, which I guess he's sleeping there. I don't know. He looked like a homeless person. Kevin wasn't in this episode.
No, so. Kevin wasn't in this episode. Well, he works for Archie now because he's not the sheriff anymore. Mm-hmm. But he was. You're right. He is just like holding up on like a mat at night.
So I guess now the Lodge women have finally taken over. And like I said, it seems to be like it's going to stick in some way.
There is still one more episode in the past for them to totally fuck this up. And there is then a time jump, in which case in those convening years, Hiram could have done any number of things.
Well, in third which case, the end of Katie Keene, if that has anything to do with anything at this point,
that's right.
He showed up to buy like the city block or something in New York.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know if they're just gonna
retcon that.
Yeah, I don't know. So we have the second plot, the B plot, I would call it, is Archie and Mary, and then the trial for the guy who killed Fred.
Yeah.
I think it's because Luke Perry actually died.
Yeah.
But I do love the fact that Fred is not just dead and gone in one episode.
Yeah.
And we have come back to grappling with the repercussions of losing this character, and we've had kind of stages and stuff. I enjoy that. This descent into madness for Archie, it's sort of whatever. We've seen it before, and it was better.
That's the thing, too.
Remember his alcoholism for like 2 weeks?
That was like less than one episode. It never came back up again. That's what I was going to say, is it feels very like that, where it's like he all of a sudden was like a booze hound for one episode. And in this one, he's just like beating the shit out of his Uncle Frank for like 30 seconds until they really pull a Good Will Hunting, it's not your fault kind of thing.
I cannot wrap my mind around the decision to bring Frank back.
So weird. And now he's like ready to admit to what he did when he was a mercenary.
You were like, did we know that? And I was like, that sounds
right.
Right.
Last I knew, he was stealing from Andrew's construction, so I don't know.
And so forgiving the driver.
Yeah.
Which I had kind of forgotten what happened. It was the boy. Ultimately, I'm glad Archie did. Yeah. I think that's the obvious answer there.
Well, and it's exactly what he said in the letter, is that it's what Fred would have done.
It's absolutely. I was so glad that they put that, because, Fred would have never forgiven Archie there, but for the grace of God. Although Archie, he had a point where he was like, I would have turned myself in.
Yeah.
If we know one thing, we know Archie throws himself on the grenade.
Archie is willing to fall on the sword, for sure. Archie is definitely willing.
He will put swords there in case he needs.
Just to fall on. Definitely.
So, what show is Cheryl Blossom on?
A different one.
It's not this show.
She's on a different show.
That's been true. That's been consistent for a while.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that's part of the reason with like why Vanessa Morgan was like irritated by her plot lines and stuff. It's like she's not in the mix on the show. She is in Cheryl's storyline, but she doesn't have a story.
Which is fine, but then like when you're playing her girlfriend, and you can't be killed off for political reasons. So you're basically just a prop that exists within an already disconnected thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
Like, remember when she was Jughead's second in command in the Serpents? Like, that was fun.
The Serpents.
I'm just saying, it was something. She was more connected at that point. I believe she's had one scene in the same room as Betty, and it's when she insulted her ponytail. That was like her first episode.
Having said that, I adore the Blossoms. Yeah. It's one of my favorite plot points in the series.
Penelope especially is. Natalie Bolt.
So, is she just living in the walls of Thistle House?
She's living at her, like, bordello. But I think
she, like, came out. Remember, they had her locked in.
For the drama.
At one point, she was, like, lurking around inside the walls of Thistle House. Because wasn't she poisoning them? Or she was the one moving the doll around.
Yeah, that is what it was.
So, I have no idea. The funniest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. We cackled like a group of banshees when Cheryl came back from vacation.
Yeah.
And Nana Rose
from her alibi vacation.
Nana Rose is in full mourning. Full mourning. And what did she say?
Monica Bellucci veil. Nana, who are you mourning?
And she says the entire Blossom family has suffered off
shuffled off
to the underworld. Yeah. I have no idea. It was so funny. Nana Rose is such a weird MVP of this show.
Good. She's just there whenever you need her. She's great. I love Nana Rose.
And I mean, they were terrible. It both feels like a wasted opportunity, but also such a deserved thing to because we met a couple. We met Cricket.
And Penelope just straight up poisoned all of them.
The entire
Blossom family. After specifically sending Cheryl on an alibi vacation. Hilarious. Hilarious.
Well, the entirety of the Blossom Empire, what it represents and what it's become is just so funny.
Well, remember when they were the scary villain? Mm-hmm. And now it's just like, it was like an all red plaid Zoom meeting. Mm-hmm. It was so funny.
It's like Gotham. I mean, it's like watching Batman.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I mean, I guess that brings us to Jughead and Betty's plot. I don't really, we're of course assuming you've watched this, so we're just going to talk about it. But it's the kind, I guess this is a whole is worth less than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Because I think each individual element of it, they actually sold me on.
Sure.
But there's something about that being like, this is what that season was coming to.
I am disappointed with the endings of both of the main mysteries. I'm disappointed.
But I think in and of themselves, it's sort of like, well, that is a acceptable answer to that question.
Sure.
But the way it was sort of, and I think they knew that because of the way they filmed Jughead telling FP, like explaining to him over drinks what happened.
So here's the thing. I agree with you. I think for me, it is very the end of Game of Thrones, where I'm like, I don't hate where we ended. I am baffled by how we arrived at this point. like getting there was very disappointing to me.
The thing that I guess
think it's because it didn't.
And again, I think they're both fine, but so was Charles and Jellybean in cahoots?
No, Jellybean's thing like was he was
doing her bidding.
Maybe. Well, in that case, I think he was.
He couldn't have been.
I think he was.
He was playing into it?
Yeah, I think she was unknowingly cahooting with him.
That's
like if he was using the videos to commit the murders.
Yeah,
and she was just doing the videos as like a weird thing to keep Jughead around.
Because her being the way that they hype up the auteur, I wanted mustache twirl. Like I wanted Penelope Blossom.
Sure.
Like I wanted some kind of, I would have taken Chick somehow back from the grave again.
Same.
Or
well, he's not dead. He's
I know, but the Black Hood. I don't know. And so the explanation of this being a really weird thing that a unstable teenage girl did is actually interesting and a little bit profound. Like, that would have been a plot on, like, Sharp Objects 2.
It doesn't even feel like she's unstable, though.
I think coming from her biker mom.
Well, okay, there's a
moving into her.
There is some instability.
The stuff that has been thrust upon her.
But the reasoning is that she just didn't want Jughead to go away to school.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like a very
and like I said,
thing.
if that were the final reveal, to repeat myself in Sharp Objects 2, that this was a weird sort of like teenage, like, because he literally says he was like, she doesn't comprehend the darkness of what she did.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was very interesting in a way that the show did not explore, other than acknowledging that that's there.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, I needed more, and maybe it's there, we haven't rewatched season 4, but I needed more than Jellybean was at the film club and then she looked at breakfast rolls really angrily at one point. Like, I don't know. I needed something more.
In retrospect, there was a very somebody shit on the coats vibe.
It was very dun dun dun.
Yeah. It's like, and then you fade away.
Yeah. The Charles thing, it's like, when it happened, I was sort of like, oh.
Yeah.
There's really no other way this could have gone. But it's also, that was my thing, is I felt like it was so obvious that it had to have been a red herring.
Same, yeah.
And I mean, I can't say that Charles was interesting, was all that, like, good of a character, but there's a part of me where I'm kind of like, so A, we're done with him, and B, that was what we did with Charles Cooper.
Yeah, it's a little annoying. That's the thing is
the plot.
That's the thing is, like, again, you're right. It's like, I don't mind that it was him, and I don't mind that it was Jellybean making the videos, but there was not enough there to, like, make it compelling. Like, you're right. It just, we were like...
It's very happenstance.
Yeah, we were on this road, and it was like, well, it's got to be Jellybean, but that's too obvious, and it's got to be Charles, but that's too obvious, and then they're like, no, you're right, and I'm just like, oh... Okay, I guess.
Well, and furthermore, like I said, I mean, when we introduced at the end of season 1 some blonde Adonis, there's a part of me that I'm like, so this is what we did with that plot point.
Yeah.
And you're right, it does complicate the family dynamic so much because he's related to all three of them. Yeah,
well, he is Jughead's brother and he's Betty's brother, but they're...
And Jellybean's.
But Jellybean is irrelevant in this conversation. So it's like, that's the thing. It's like, I'm pretty sure they don't, but assuming that Betty and Jughead stay together long term, what do you say at, like, cocktail parties? Yeah, it was really all fun and games until our brother started killing everybody, and then you know that they're
but
like,
only people who deserved it, and it's like, no,
wait,
go back
did
to
you
the
say
brother.
Our brother? Like, are you related? I'm just like,
no, but
our parents had a love child,
but we have a blood relative, and our parents are currently married.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say.
It was very, very strange.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything?
Probably.
What happened to Donna? So Donna is still out there.
Donna might still be out there.
Fucking Donna. Well, they said she slipped away. And I was like, of all of the characters that they could have kept, Donna.
So this is actually the most disappointing to me, is that Brett Weston Wallace is dead.
In both universes, because he's dead in Sabrina, too.
I just was like, really? What a weird... You kept him alive and sent him to prison.
And what a weird thing to bring Chick in. To remind us that Chick even existed.
Yeah.
And then to establish that him and Charles are, like, lovers. And...
Well, we knew that already.
Sure. Well, it had been alleged at one point.
They were touching hands through the glass.
No, I know, but to bring that in when they did in, like, season 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Because wasn't that in season 3?
I think it was 4. I think it was just
It was early.
But it was early.
And I guess we're not, like, Charles isn't dead and buried, so he could still be on the show. I don't know.
Neither is Chick. I mean, they could both come back, but it felt like a real waste of Brett, who could have turned into, like, a really interesting gray area character, because he and Betty cahooted sometimes.
I forgot they had that weird
Yeah, they have, like, a really weird dynamic, and I think it was a mistake to kill him outright. I don't like it.
Stab him how many times and then gouge his eyes out?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Big no.
Although I do believe Chick did that.
Sure, of course, Chick did it. I believe Chick did it for sure. It feels like a real missed opportunity to keep somebody around in the background.
And like a Dexter is something that I feel like Riverdale could and should do.
Sure.
But I'm like, wow, this was how you did that?
Well, and it's
this
also
is how you blew your Dexter wad.
That's the thing too. Is he always? Well, it's like season 8 of Dexter, which fucking sucked, or 6 or whatever. But the thing for me is he was like, I was only killing people who deserved it, and I was like, I don't think you were.
Well, Betty literally was like, he was in jail.
Yeah, like he got his punishment, and it's also like I don't know that like the video store guy deserved it. Like he was doing shady stuff, but I don't know. There's like
hosting snuff parties, profiting off of.
Of course, it's terrible. I guess it just like within the morality of this show, that is something that is not the most taboo.
Where did Charles sleep?
Yeah, I don't know. Because he was like mentoring Betty and teaching her all about serial killers. And then he was like also trying to, discover this thing. Also, there were so many intuitive leaps by Betty and Jughead. And I know there are all the time, but it usually doesn't bother me like it did in this episode.
When they figured out it was...
it's got to be Jelly Bean. And I'm just like, what a leap.
Based on what?
Yeah, based on what evidence? And then he just asks her and she's like, yup. I'm like, okay, I guess. I don't know, man.
This is how we watch the show. I was gonna say I mean I enjoyed it as much as it's easier to swallow knowing that it doesn't matter, that that there's another episode next week, but furthermore we haven't even started season 5
then we're gonna have a time jump.
So that makes it simultaneously like it helps me ignore the problems I'm having with it, because I'm like, well, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's the thing is like, I think part of it is that it was like
we don't have all summer to be like, that was what we did.
Well, we already did that is the problem is like we had a truncated 4th season and then we had to wait basically a year to get the resolution of that. In the meantime, we've been crafting ideas of what it could have been, and then it turns out to be this, and you're like, ugh. But then you're right.
But I'm saying if we had to sit on this all summer, I would think I would be a little bit more salty about it.
Sure, yes.
But because I'm like, we're just gonna start anew next week, I'm kind of
100%.
Yeah. What does it matter?
Fine. So we're gonna graduate next week, and then after that is the time.
We like this. I mean, we laughed a lot.
To the point where my husband was like, "Aren't you guys watching a drama?" I don't know.
I still enjoyed it.
I still love this show. I'm willing to allow this like mediocre semi-finale.
I'm the most excited about Hermione joining the Real Housewives.
I think you're really not going to get the payoff you're hoping for. I just want you to be prepared. I want
a show within a show.
I don't think so.
So
Queen of Jordan style.
Yeah. It's my way till payday.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.